Blood is thicker than Warhammer. It's the Large Blast podcast. I'm your host, Stoney, joined as always by Welshie.
I'm loving angels instead.
And Matt.
Hark now, hear the angel sings.
And we're here today to talk about all things Warhammer, in particular a certain blonde vampire Jesus known as Sanguinius, but we'll get on to him a bit later. First, let's kick things off by finding out what's been going on in people's hobbies lives with hobbies goings on. Welshie, what's been going on with your hobbies going ons?
Well, I actually had a day off doing big Warhammer, which is what I've decided to call renovating my house. So I had a day off today, and I've done a whole day of painting, and it's been excellent. So I've been painting my Necron Canoptech Circle kill team. So that's the one with the kind of centipede guy. I think he's called a Geomancer. So it's like a centipede body wrapped around a kind of floating slab of Noctilith. And then loads of like, I guess they're like Necron snails with glowing centers. So yeah, I've been painting them up. They look like quite a fun kill team to play because it's kind of like they're not really like independent characters. Like they've got the main guy and he's kind of in control of them, and they all get buffs if they're within certain directions of him. So it's a really different way to play kill team than just like super independent characters. It's kind of like you've got this one guy and their position in relation to him is what really matters if you want them to do well.
You know, again, I've not played Kill Team. I need to play some. Maybe when I come down to see you, Welshie, we could play some Kill Team.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, I've got a load here.
I'm sort of super interested in the way all the armies play really differently. Like we were talking the other day about how is it the Red Terror one, where if you get the Red Terror, you just get the Red Terror, and then it's like an army of Marines or something. So it's kind of like Alien sort of thing with I think that's wicked. So you've got all these different kind of scenarios and matchups with these sort of quite unique armies.
Of the ones I play, like they do definitely have a lot of variation in the game style. So even just like the number of models. So if you're Vespid, you've got 10, 11 models. If you're Space Marines, you've got 6. So immediately you've got more on the board. Like, and then even like comedy things like the Ratlings are super weak, obviously, but they get to move after they shoot. Essentially, like they get an extra movement to run away. So like the play styles are just completely different depending on what you're playing. I mean, Space Marines are oppressive as you'd expect them to be, but everything else has a lot of fun to it for sure.
Matt, what about you? You been up to anything? Painting any knights?
No, I've been working on a Krieg. That's sort of the cavalry I'm doing at the moment. Working on one of the Krieg guys on the funky horses. And
how's the extra 2 legs? Are you adapting to the fact that don't they have 6 legs, the Krieg horses, or is that only the main rubber chicken one?
The main rubber chicken one.
What's the main rubber chicken?
The old rubber horse, the 6-legged rubber chicken horse, Matt. Come on, you know which one we're talking about.
They have 4 legs, but they have weird feet. So I think that's what you're thinking about. They have really, they're great models. They're big models. But really, I mean, I was working on that really the last time we spoke. So in all honesty, I haven't really started anything new. I have continued to work a little bit on my Sisters of Battle Armies on Parade board, which is the continuation of years now. I think this year will be the year that I finish it.
Are you going to enter? Are you doing Armies on Parade?
Yeah, I mean, that's the goal.
Nice. Yeah. Well, we'll hold you to that here at the LBP.
Yeah. I always forget when it is, and then I end up with like 3 weeks to go. And I think it's in October, isn't it?
Don't know.
Yeah. If it's in October, should be okay.
Oh God, it's in a week's time, Matt. You've got to get on it.
Right. If it's in October, we should go to the one at Warhammer World. We've been talking about an LBP trip for ages. We can both do one. And Stoney, you can see if you can get your incorporated alien men into Armies on Parade.
No, I'm not giving them any more ideas. They can fuck off.
Yeah. What about you, Stoney?
I've been super busy as well, really. I haven't really had much time to do anything sort of similar to last time we spoke. But I did have a bit of time over the last couple of days. So I am now got 8 of my 10 guys all printer ready and everything, pre-supported, non-supported, all of that, which is pretty cool. And then there's just 2 of them, which I keep sort of going backwards and forwards on a couple of ideas with. So, but like one of the challenges has definitely been because they've got like quite like capes and stuff, sort of like some of them have like kind of like open coats with kind of like flowing, sort of like a flowing, kind of ankle length kind of coat sort of thing. Mm-hmm. And thinking of ways to sort of kit that is really difficult. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Because also when I was making them, I didn't really think about that too much because I sort of understand that some people would like, obviously the legs are kind of hidden inside this sort of cape kind of thing. So if I was painting it, I would just be happy with like it in two halves almost, and then maybe the arms and the gun and the head separate or something. But like, if you actually wanted to get in there and paint the legs or something, because quite often there's one leg that's out and the other leg's kind of inside the coat or something like that. The trials and tribulations of trying to kit like flowing material and capes and stuff like that and make them sort of so they'll print sizably enough to be worth printing in the first place and not just kind of just be print this like wafer thin little bit of thing that you have to stick on in a really random way. And I mean, you can see it on the Games Workshop models that it's an issue how sometimes you'll buy a model and it's got like a cape and it's just got a split right down the fucking middle of it, so when you stick it together really you've got to like seam it up. So
why are you doing it as pieces though? I mean, isn't that the point of 3D printing, that you don't have to worry about join lines?
Well, no, but it's not about that. It's so that people can print it in pieces. So you can,
if people want to paint it in pieces.
Yeah, exactly. Because some people are like, it's one of the questions I used to, when I only made stuff that you could buy and it was just in like one solid bit, everyone used to say, hey, can you print this in pieces? And to be honest with you, that was things like, that Inquisitor I made, like on the weird horse thing, like, that was fucking a nightmare to paint, and probably still is. It's free on the thing, so go check it out on Cult 3D. But like that thing is a fucking pain in the balls to paint because he's got like a collar and then like over his bearded face that has like and all those like loads of eyes. So he's got like a really large hat on, a bearded face, and a like collar that comes up to like his nose. So
I see what you mean now. So you made it in pieces specifically so you can get to hard to reach painting areas without worrying about
because, and some people, they always ask, hey, can you make stuff in bits? So it's just to I always do it so you can print them in just one piece, or you could print them as separate, like bits. But but it's just a lot harder when you've got fabric involved, like flowy fabric. So that's been a challenge.
Well, maybe hopefully we'll be able to make a kill team out of them. That'd be fun.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh yeah,
that'd be cool. They're immaculately put together flowing fabric capes and things like that. You'll see.
We can add a rule for flowing capes, some kind of stealth rule.
If it gets caught on loose nails and and tears, and they throw a hissy fit.
Finance, cutting-edge technology. Accurate information is the Large Blast podcast news. Hear every episode.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the news. And the first story is what Welshie has just described to me as a hive fuck storm. So I don't know what it's about, but what the fuck is a hive fuck storm, Welshie?
So this is a classic bit of GW release schedule meets neckbeard community. And what's happened is this new book by Dan Abnett called Hive, what I like to refer to as I Refuse to Write Beckwin Part 3. They released the book. It's out. You can get it on digital download. I've been listening to the first few chapters. It's very good. But what they said is they're going to do a premium super special edition signed by Dan Abnett himself. So everyone with a Black Library collection got very, very excited by this news. And then GW released that in order to buy these signed books that have been signed by the hand of Dan Abnett himself, there would obviously be not very many of them. Mm-hmm. And as a result of there being not very many of them, they would only be available in a select number of stores, which to me all seems very reasonable. But the community have lost their shit. And why isn't there one in like Norwich Games Workshop? Why can you only get it in Birmingham and Manchester and London? Like, this is ridiculous. Games Workshop have responded to this in the best way ever. Well, I've got to thank Jimmy Bignuts for alerting me to this. Games Workshop have now said it's okay. The premium edition will be available, made to order for everyone that wants it. And it will come in about 180 days. Obviously, by which point everyone's already read this. But that's not the best bit. The best bit is the signed copies have already been sent to the select Games Workshop stores, who have now all been asked to pulp them and destroy them completely, and nobody getting a premium book will be getting a signed one.
Why do they want to pulp them?
They're pulping them, Stoney. They're pulping them. They will no longer be available. Yeah, if you want a premium book, you've got to sign up online, and you get it in 180 days.
Was there too many orders of the other premium books? They had to pulp all the other books. Every time you finished reading a book, they'd have to take it back and pulp it to make it into a fresh copy.
I guess what had happened is they've sent it all to Dan Abnett. Dan Abnett signed 1,000 copies. 1,000 copies have been distributed, and now they don't want to release the premium version because so many people want it, but they're not going to still sell the ones in store. They've just decided that those won't be available, and as a result, they're going to have to ask the shops to pulp them. Because if you're thinking about quitting Games Workshop store and you've got 10 signed Dan Abnett premium, 180 days,
there's some of those are going to end up. There's going to be a couple of those book covers put over the John Major autobiography or something and sent back. There's going to be a few of those circulated, I reckon. That's like a piece of Warhammer lore now.
Yeah, exactly. Like, that has just massively increased the value for someone wanting to steal some of these. I haven't seen an official statement from Games Workshop in reference to the pulping, but their official statement is these will no longer be available at those stores. So you can't buy it. If you want the premium edition, you've got to wait 180 days.
Maybe they realised the guy they gave to sign them wasn't Dan Abnett. It was just some guy or something.
I hope it's some guy in the marketing team at Games Workshop on his last day that's just gone, you know what, fuck you nerds. Like, if you can't get over yourself to the point where you realise that there's only a set number of books Dan Abnett can sign, especially if you want him to write Beckwin 3, for Christ's sake, like, what are you doing? This is just utter madness to me. It's so
madness. Crazy to just get rid of them, though. I don't know. That's so. But also, does it not? Are they not like bending to terrorism here? Are they not saying like, yes, neckbeards, if you bully us enough, we will pulp over. We will. Or is this more like a you can't have nice things, neckbeards?
Yeah, that's what I think. That's what I reckon. It's a guy on his last day. It's good. You know what? You can't fucking have nice things. We thought this would be a nice touch, but you can't have it. You'll have to find Dan Abnett at some kind of book signing stall somewhere. When you look through, the new like flimsy codexes, as they get shitter and shitter, obviously the 11th editions will, if modern trends continue, be the shittest codex yet. And if you like hold them up to the light through the paper, you can kind of see Dan Abnett's signature on every one, because they've one-plied it. Yeah, I mean, that is almost as sensible as this whole debacle, in all honesty. So yeah, I would recommend. I'm only a few chapters in, and it's already great. I mean, it's so good after you've listened to a few non-Dan Abnett books to get back into some fresh Dan Abnett. So just fucking get it on Audible, guys. You don't need a signed copy on your shelf. This is the one that's about the kind of the political intrigue taking place in a hive city. Yeah, I mean, that is how it's been sold. The start has been a guy as one of the main characters has been kind of cast out of the hive for breaking some unknown rules. I assume he's coming back as a kind of main character, and now it's started on some politics on the various levels. So yeah, I'll report back when I've finished it as to whether it's any good, whether it's going to be the new big series or not. Rolling in my 6-4. There are some that will tell you fate is nothing more than a load of old bum custard. That time shambles unstoppingly onwards to a future it cares not where, as unpredictable as a wasp that has taken a liking to your sandwich. But as much as the future can surprise you, sometimes you see it coming a mile off, which brings us to the subject of today's episode, Sanguinius. The cool-ass angel vampire that is perfect in every way. Except one quite big one. He lived a good life and died the most unavoidable death in all Warhammer history. Hell, there's a good chance you saw the artwork of his death before you even knew who he was. He's donezo, as they say. No way he could come back as a ghost or anything like that. Oh, what was that? So let's get on with finding out about our new favourite dead man walking, or flying should I say, Sanguinius.
Let's start where it begins with his early life after he is scattered to the winds like all the Primarchs. He lands on Baal, which was once upon a time, long before he landed there, supposedly a really kind of beautiful and advanced planet. But through a series of civil wars and just general fuckery, it had been basically turned into a kind of irradiated Mad Max style wasteland, largely populated with mutants and a couple of other sort of tribes, basically, that would sort of wander around, getting up to trouble, you know. One of the tribes, coincidentally, is called the People of the Pure Blood, which is, you know, pretty good, right? That all checks out. And they basically find Sanguinius crashed into Earth as a little tiny tiny as a Primarch kind of baby, but he's got wings on him.
He's essentially like a cherub, though, right? It's funny to think of him. It makes you think of Talladega Nights. And like, I can only think of the little baby Christmas Jesus. I like to pray to baby Jesus. It's like he would have just been a cherub, right?
Yeah, and apparently, like, because his wings aren't even formed yet, so he's just got like little nubs, like little back nubs. And he's just like a kind of engrossed Primarch baby. And like a lot of the guys want to kill him. Because obviously they're in this kind of war with the mutants. They're kind of humans, like remnants of humans that still kind of worship the emperor, and they're always in constant battles against the mutants. So a lot of them are like, let's get this is clearly a mutant or something fucked up. It's next to some kind of weird pod. It's got these weird little turkey legs out the back. Let's fucking get rid of him. And they're like, eventually they're like, no, let's hang on to him. And they're kind of glad they do, because at 1 year old, he basically resembles a 20-year-old dude. He's fully grown. He's really greasy.
Because I read that, do we assume because he's a Primarch that he's not a 1 year old in a 20-year-old's body? He's a 20-year-old in a 20-year-old's body.
I think he's somewhere in the middle. He's kind of like a 14-year-old, you know. He's like moping about.
I'm not your slave.
Exactly, just playing shitty music in his room and like putting on makeup and stuff when no one's looking. Like one day, Sanguinius, you'll get off this shitty planet.
Well, it definitely checks with his black hair phase, the old famous potential typo in the Black Library, where he's first described as having black hair.
That's what he was about. So he's big all of a sudden, and everyone was like, whoa, this guy's actually pretty cool because he can walk through the irradiated wastes completely unharmed. That's pretty cool for this 20-year-old, 1 year old. So the tribe of the Pureblood essentially thought that he was a prophet sent by the emperor, and he quickly became the tribe's leader and started a pilgrimage across the wastes to help find a better life. And that's really cool, I think, because he, from the outset, kind of like breathes hope into everybody. He's kind of really like a sort of positive and good leader, which I think is really demonstrated here. In a way which I know a lot of the Primarchs kind of start out like that, but because they're all living in this like shitty desert world, you know, fucking rubbing two rocks together for fun. And he's like, nah, come on, we can do better than this. We can make something cool, or we can find something cool. Like, let's look around this big old place. Let's go on a pilgrimage. And everyone's like, yeah, fuck yeah, come on, Sanguinius, let's do it. You know, so that's I think a cool aspect of him. And although there's too many stories from this pilgrimage to go into, guys, so I won't go into all of them. Only the really important one, which is the big mutant attack, which is where they're all stomping about, and this massive tribe of mutants basically comes down and outnumbering everyone 100-1, and they start, you know, having a big ruck with them, and they kill a couple of Sanguinius's tribe, the Purebloods. And Sanguinius, this is the first time everyone sort of sees him like lose his shit, and he goes into this crazy rage and just single-handedly just decimates the rest of the mutants, basically just sort of tears them apart. And everyone's like, whoa, wasn't really expecting you to do that, buddy. Is everything all right? What's going on with you? Thanks for saving us and everything, but like, what was that kind of about? And that was kind of the time when he sort of realized that he had to he was constantly kind of like restraining this kind of like beast inside him.
I guess I always like think with him with that, like, he wakes up on quite a black and white world compared to a lot of his brothers. Like he's there. There's some human looking humans and there's some mutants, and it's like very much, okay, well, we're the good guys and they're the bad guys and I need to kill them. Yeah. He doesn't really have to like deal with any kind of like proper inter-tribe politics or the darkness of knowing that your world's populated with like criminals or create kind of any uprisings against the ruling elite. It's just, here's some good guys, I'll join them. Here's the bad guys, I'll kill them.
Well, definitely. I mean, and he's running the fucking thing by the time he's 1 year old, remember? It's like he's literally gone from baby to running the place in like a single year. So they're kind of so, you know, they've got that initial suspicion of him is quickly squashed when he starts being like this fucking excellent warrior that's just saving their ass all the time and everything. And they're all religious as well. They're all kind of left over from worshipping the emperor and stuff. So they think of him as a god and basically like a prophet and a god and like an emperor type character. But he also kind of shows this sort of like appetite for revenge at this point as well, because after this massive battle against the mutants and finding a place to settle, he ends up going on this huge crusade against just the mutants. He's just really pissed off with them and just decides to go on a big mutant rampage, basically, and sort of combine any, you know, sort of save any tribes that he's got, because they're all sort of nomadic and wandering around, so no one really knows where anybody is. So he eventually kind of brings everybody together and makes these kind of beautiful cities and goes around just kicking the shit out of fucking mutants, basically. He becomes the ruler of Baal, which is known as the ruler of blood and worshipped as a god, which is, you know, again, pretty, the ruler of blood, it seems a little bang on, for, as if they knew that what was going on with this kind of blood appetite that he had. But here we go. I guess that's how it goes. But anyway, so the big E, like, here's the story of an angel being praised as a god, basically. And he thinks, hang on a minute, this sounds like one of mine. This could be one of mine. I could be.
But I'm definitely not a god.
I'm definitely not a god, but I
could be maybe
responsible for this. I've at least got to go and either hug it or kill it, I guess. And so let's
hug
see.
Or kill.
So he jumps in his spaceship and he zooms over there. And obviously Sanguinius, again, a bit like Kurz, and we're going to see some similarities between him and Kurz through this, I think. He has he already knows that he's going to meet the Emperor and everything. So the Emperor like arrives in his cool-ass golden spaceship in this like huge theatre that they've built called the Theatre of Blood, which is just like
where they drink blood,
and watch people drink blood and all the rest of it, and have nothing, and don't worship corn. Anyone that says that is full of shit. He basically arrives in this big cool ass open air theatre whilst they're all like watching some, you know, blood based play. And lands, and all the guys from Baal are immediately like, whoa, fuck. Because again, they're basically fucking cavemen. So obviously him landing in this golden spaceship and showing up in his cool ass armor and everything, everyone loses their shit. But Sanguinius already knows that he's coming. So he flies up and gives this big speech, but basically just saying like, hey, you know, I've foreseen it. This guy's okay. You know, he's with me. Everything's going to be pretty cool. And he also then bends the knee. And it's a weird experience, must be a strange experience for him, because he's also, at this point, foreseen his own death, which is going to be essentially saving this guy who he's just met. You know, it must be quite odd. I don't know if how much of the kind of, the sort of feelings that he gets from his visions. But like,
so he's starting to get visions of that when he meets the Emperor.
Gets like visions of something bad happening and knowing a connectivity of this. I don't think he starts, at least in the later books, it's implied that he doesn't begin like visualizing his actual death until a bit later. But it's definitely implied that like when he meets this guy, he knows that his fate is like inexorably linked to him, because he's one of the few ones, isn't he, that says, he doesn't just say, yeah, I'm with you. He makes he asks the Emperor, he says, what if I say no? And the Emperor's like ums and ahs about it, and he's basically like, well, you know, I can't say no because I can feel like I'm tied to you, but if I say yes, you have to promise me the Baalites will be safe, like you will protect Baal will be looked after. And the Emperor actually just agrees. It's like the most civil joining of all the Primarchs, really. It's like there's like an actual discussion about it and some terms drawn up, as opposed to thievery or follow me or die or any of that kind of stuff.
But little did Sanguinius know, the emperor had his fingers crossed because Baal gets fucked up many, many times. But and yeah, that was about it really. I saw I know this isn't on further investigation. I discovered this not to be true, but I thought it was quite cool that, like, they said that when we always say the emperor comes correct, he knows what to do. He comes doing the right thing. And I saw one account of his landing saying that as he walks down the platform, flowers bloomed in his stead on the kind of on the sort of ashen ground, like plants started to grow where he was walking and stuff, which I thought was pretty cool.
If he wanted to really make a statement of "I am your dad," he could have given himself some psychic wings or something, couldn't he?
Yeah, I was thinking that.
Really thrown up that kind of.
My wings are bigger than yours.
Yeah, maybe that's not what he was going for.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think, like I said, he's got one of the plainest backstories on his planet, isn't he? Really, like compared to some of them. Like when you read Sanguinius's Primarch book, it's basically more about the end of his life than it is about the beginning. Like there's very little time given over to embellishing any more on
I think it's
tribes.
It's a bit like people call him kind of the anti-Kurz, and he is a bit like that, where he's just a good guy.
Yeah, which is kind of weird then, because then doesn't he just sort of float around? Isn't he a bit of a floater then with the emperor? Like,
so the emperor, he kind of, as we talked about last episode, the Blood Angels, or known as the Revenant Legion at this point, are kind of
really small,
a league of unto their own. And the Emperor, I guess the Emperor sees this goodness in Sanguinius and might think you're not ready for it yet, and he teams him up with Horus, which will become very relevant later on. But he spends his first
for like 2
3
decades.
years.
Okay.
His first 3 years, like directly on the ship next to him, and they fight and crusade together for longer. But he's essentially kind of best mates with Horus. They are described, of all the Primarch's relationships, the relationship between Sanguinius and Horus is the closest.
Yeah,
is how it's stated in the book.
That sort of begs, if he's starting to get these visions and premonitions, and maybe he I guess he's always had them, but maybe meeting these people, like meeting the Emperor, sort of makes these visions slightly clearer.
Yeah, I think it's still a feeling at this time of being like in a web of fate. Obviously, he's not like
but it does
the face of anyone or anything.
It does
like
make
that.
you wonder whether spending those 3 years with Horus also must have given him some early sort of confusing emotions and the kindlings of some sort of vision with Horus.
Yeah, even just knowing that you're like linked to this person forever immediately.
Yeah,
it's like love at first sight, but not love. Fate at first sight.
Yeah, our souls are intertwined.
Yeah, arseholes are intertwined. I do think, again, talking about Kurz, like there is a difference between the way they kind of envisage their fate and stuff. Like Kurz is like completely fatalistic. Like, I can't change it. That's what it is. But I think that, like, with Sanguinius, like, his vision becomes crystallized when he kind of realizes that the path he's taking is going to lead there through the actions that he's taking. Because he's always like, I think that in a way, his like that is the best outcome for him. He's like, right, well, if I have to die to save the Emperor, then obviously that's going to suck. It's tragic, but but I'm going to save the Emperor. Do you know what I mean? So it's kind of like, I don't think
he knows that at this point, though.
Like, no, I don't. But that's sort of what I'm saying, is that it's his visions aren't like fatalist. It's through the kind of almost like a gathering of information that they're sort of made.
A meeting of minds where they discuss that a bit later on, where they literally, like, Kurz and him are in the same room talking about this. When those visions become a bit clearer, which I think is interesting.
Yeah, but that's I don't know I guess that he isn't having those visions because his fate isn't so set like Kurz is. It's like he could he maybe at this point his future is undecided.
Yeah, he definitely. Yeah, I see what you're saying. You're saying that it isn't so clear to him, and therefore he just knows he knows he's important, but he doesn't quite know why or how yet.
Yeah, he knows he's doing the thing that he's supposed to do, but he's not sure why or what.
Yeah. Something must happen as he spends more and more time in the Imperial fold, where he works out that they are a premonition, a vision of what will happen. That must become clearer to him over time.
Yeah, it does. There's there's a big thing that will shape up later on in his life for sure.
So he kind of floats around with Horus. He starts learning the ropes, doesn't he?
Yeah, he learns the ropes of how to crusade, and then he gets given the Legion, as we talked about, knocks them into shape.
Gets them back to Baal, the Blood Angels, renames them.
Yeah.
And that's all linked with where he grew up.
Because obviously, like, blood, he's had the blood games, the blood city, got to have blood and everything at this point.
Blood.
Maybe he's just not learned much Gothic at that point. He's like, what should I call them? Well, I've got wings, so they're going to be angels. What do we like? Blood.
Does he? So he's got the wings, which are like in the writing. And Stoney, you obviously mentioned that he had like turkey leg, turkey wings, stubs on his back when he landed on Baal. Did he also have fangs? Does he have like? Do the fangs come later?
I reckon he's got like those like attractive Hollywood man fangs, where they're not quite fangs, but they're a little bit bigger than the average canine.
So you can go like and show them, and then at times when it's needed.
Yeah. Because the wings are in Black Library, in the literature and in the artwork, they are proper. They're sort of swan-like.
But they say that the feathers feel like they're made of like steel. They're so strong that you can't like bend them or anything. So that's how he can get shot in them a bunch.
Okay, all right. So if there are Primarch's wings,
you'd think if he just had if they were straightforward, non-psychic heat related feathers, a flamethrower would do quite a lot of damage to him quite quickly.
And actually,
it'd be hard to hang on to those.
I listened to an interesting thing actually while we're talking about the wings, where this guy was reading from the 2nd edition Blood Angel Codex, and he was just talking about how the character Sanguinius had been, like they've all been, so much more has been written about them since then, but in 2nd edition it was strongly implied or actually written that the Emperor acknowledged that the wings on Sanguinius were the touch of chaos.
Yeah.
That when he was thrown through the warp, as you described, Stoney, with him ending up on Baal, that the effect of that was the touch of chaos creating the wings, because he is the only winged Primarch at this point. In 40k, obviously, a lot of the Chaos guys have wings.
It's definitely an upgrade you can give a Demon Prince, for instance, or something like that. So,
Codex compliant upgrade.
The only other theory that I saw that seems to make sense, because I don't think it makes sense that the Emperor chose to give him wings and nobody else, is that actually the mutations came from the radiation of Baal. Okay. So when he landed on Baal, the radiation caused the mutation that went pretty in him because he was made of the Emperor rather than like a tentacle face,
I love that idea. Like, what if, because it never really, I don't think, Stoney, I don't know if you've read anything, but I don't think it actually ever describes what the mutants were that they were fighting. It'd be funny if the mutants were all like winged angels.
Yeah, they might have been. I've always imagined them like were just massacring characters.
Yeah,
maybe it's like we were saying in the last episode, in the quest for perfection, they're all just people with like ingrowing toenails or like a bad haircut.
Yeah. Maybe it doesn't make sense now that Urda's been revealed as their genetic mother, but the Emperor could have fucked a swan and he's just not telling anyone about it.
Yeah. Urda's like, why has this one got wings? Like, that was, I've got some, chaos, man.
It'd be very Zeus chaos of him, wouldn't it, to just fly down and bang an animal and like...
Yeah.
I think chaos, Zeus has fucked a couple of swans in his days, so
yeah. Yeah, I reckon so.
At that moment, as if from nowhere, a raven flew through the large blast studio window. In its beak, a tattered message written on the back of an old cat food packet.
Brother against brother, host against host. If you don't change your way now, you will be slain.
Probably nothing, I reckon.
No, that's meaningless gobbledygook. The pigeon's written that. Yeah, so he sort of finishes his education with Horace, and then it's often quite hard to sort of understand the time flow in a lot of this stuff. But I'm pretty sure we're now talking like a couple of decades has gone past. He's got the Legion into shape. He's or it could even, is it not like over 100 years? I'm not sure.
It's quite a while because he's one of the earliest to be
I was
found,
just going to say
isn't
he's
he?
one of the earliest, which is also probably why he ends up with Horace, because Horace is the first, isn't he?
Yeah, first found, unless you believe Alferis.
Okay, yeah, it's probably decades, if not. I mean, the Great Crusade's like 200 years. The Blood Angels, obviously, as we touched on, get very involved on the fringes of the Great Crusade at the beginning, and then he really manages to lick them into shape to the extent where they become one of the leading legions. But there is this constant background concern that only the Legion know of their red thirst that we spoke about in the previous episode. And I think there's a point where Horus is with Sanguinius, or they're campaigning together, and Horus he sees Sanguinius kill one of his legionaries, which is shocking to Horus. Horus is like shocked to the core that he's seen the Primarch kill one of his sons. And this is all from memory, but I think Sanguinius sort of says that the son had sort of gone berserk and that it needed to be done, and that nothing more should be spoken about it. But Horus can't forget that. Horus is like one of the only person that seems to have an understanding that there's a flaw within the Blood Angels, and that would kind of come back in the future.
Well, he tells him about the Red First and why he had to kill him, didn't he? And Horus, like you say, is kind of shocked, but he also says that he won't tell the Emperor anything, doesn't he? He sort of says, "Oh, I'll keep the secret for you." It's like a brother finding out again because they're so close, finding out something really bad and knowing that he's going to have to keep it secret. And then, like you say, it just sort of really standing out in his mind. That was like a real kind of turning point for Horus as well, in a way.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
It really shows how close they are. And then, at the end of them fighting together, Horus is elevated to War Master. And I've got a quote from Horus that shows, again, how much he respects him despite this flaw. And that's something we said loads last episode, wasn't it? That the Blood Angels are perfect despite their flaws, or maybe even because of them. And Horus says, this is after becoming War Master:
Sanguinius, it should have been him. He has the vision and strength to carry us to victory, and the wisdom to rule once the victory is won. For all his aloof coolness, he alone has the Emperor's soul in his blood. Each of us carries part of our father within us, whether it is his hunger for battle, his psychic talent, or his determination to succeed. Sanguinius holds it all. It should have been his.
In reference to War Master position. So Horus likes him so much that he thinks that if anyone else should have been War Master, or even instead of him, it should have been Sanguinius.
Well, I think that there's a lot of people that were kind of, it's like one of those things. Like, who was that? Was it Kanye West that when
the Primarch?
No, it was when
he was the second Primarch. You heard it here first.
You guys remember when Michael Jackson went up and accepted that award that he hadn't been given so it was like at the awards ceremony, and I think it was him. And then,
wasn't it Taylor Swift? Taylor Swift.
I can't remember. I thought it was like a drunk ass Michael Jackson or somebody. But anyway, it doesn't really matter. But like, it's like at the awards show, they're like, and the new War Master is, and Sanguinius is like standing up, and everyone's like getting him ready and stuff. And then they're like, Horus, and he's like, camera cuts to him, like, oh, me, what?
Yeah, just like that.
I smoke weed, eat pussy every day.
Just talking then about Horus, and we touched on his relationship that's obviously built over a long time, and obviously crystallized during those 3 years they spent together. Kind of makes you wonder whether the fact that the Blood Angels went from this sort of ad hoc military unit that was always on the fringes of campaigns, and Sanguinius was a Primarch who was sort of just sidelined in a way, it was Horus's patronage more than the emperor's that over the 200 years of the Great Crusade meant that maybe more resources were funneled into the Blood Angels, and the Blood Angels became one of the main legions because it was Horus's best mate. Like, that kind of makes sense.
Well,
yeah,
I think it's. I mean, I think there is an element of that, but I don't think that Sanguinius is experiencing like any kind of like nepotism in a way. Like, I think that does continually that. That's the thing about.
I mean, they do
legion.
prove themselves. I guess it must also be because even prior to Horus becoming War Master, Horus is like one of the main Primarchs. There must be an element of trust as well. Horus must trust Sanguinius.
I think that's the case with almost all the Primarchs as well. Like, you're right that you've got someone fighting your corner, Horus, but Guilliman's the same. Like, he's one of, Guilliman's got his Dauntless Four. That's like the Ultramarines, that any of these four could win any battle ever. Like, you've got Guilliman in your corner, and he has his own empire at this point. I think probably only the Lion doesn't really trust him, but that's because he doesn't trust anyone like Batman.
No, well, Kurz is the only sort of real standout person that really doesn't like him. But he's just
because he doesn't like anyone.
Exactly, but he's like in particular, he's really pissed off with Sanguinius because he's kind of the opposite of Kurz in so many ways. But yeah, he seems to get on with absolutely everybody, and he's really psychic as well. Obviously with these visions of the future and stuff, so he's really getting on with like Magnus and all the rest of it. He just seems to be a pretty chill dude.
So he does, from my understanding, Sanguinius is, so we're talking decades, potentially a couple of 100 years. Sanguinius, towards the end of the Great Crusade, I think prior to even Horus falling to chaos, that Sanguinius's visions of him dying at Horus's hands, is that not prior to Horus falling? Is that not clear? I think his vision...
Not. I think you might be starting to see some visions of his death, but I don't think it's until like later, almost until Imperium Secundus, that he really starts getting an idea of what and where, and it gets clearer and crisper as time goes on.
Yeah, I think there's this kind of element as well of he doesn't sort of believe what he's seeing for a little while as well. It sort of starts out as foggy, and it's kind of like his mind not sort of letting him sort of see what's happening,
almost like drunken memory or like trauma response. Like, I've seen it, but I won't believe it, so I'm not going to remember it. But I've got this gut feeling that something bad is going to happen.
Yeah.
Well, the visions, that gut feeling is not wrong, because the Great Crusade really sort of ends when the Horus Heresy begins, obviously. But in reality, Horus falls to chaos I've read a number of decades. Again, time is just, you kind of read this stuff and time's not particularly clear, but a couple of decades before the Horus Heresy, Horus actually falls to chaos. And because he's seen what the Blood Angels can do, and the Blood Angels have become this great legion, and Horus is aware of the flaw in the Blood Angels, Horus, and he knows his brother so well, he sees him as a massive threat, because he knows of what they're capable of doing. He sort of, he starts to think, I either have to utterly destroy them, or I have to get them on my side somehow.
And I think importantly, he knows that second option isn't possible. Like, he knows at this point deep down that there is no way he is going to convince Sanguinius to turn on the Emperor. Like, it's just not going to happen, and therefore he has to be eradicated.
So why is that? Because Sanguinius he gets along with the Emperor, doesn't he?
Yeah, I think so. I think because he's so golden. I mean, that is the best time to describe him, as Golden Boy, right? He is Golden Boy. He's not turning on Daddy for shit.
So because obviously he has the visions. Yeah. Is his other attribute from the Emperor is his sort of, it hits his physical representation and his majesty.
He is a walking symbol of the Imperium, isn't he?
Yeah.
And for that to turn wouldn't be possible. But I also think it might be with that what we said with that quote earlier, that Horus thinks that he should have been War Master, specifically the bit where he says because he could lead after the war. And I think that maybe Horus realizes that it's almost like that's the quality he realizes he doesn't have in himself. He is a war master and a war leader. But what he doesn't have is the ability to inspire an empire.
Well, definitely. For me, Sanguinius is a very kind of hopeful Primarch. He always gives it 110%. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
If you went to Sanguinius and you said, right, I'm thinking about falling to chaos, are you in? And he'd kind of be like, he's just too diplomatic. He'd be like, what's the problem with the Emperor? Like, can we not talk it out and sort that out? He wouldn't want to, like, he'd be like, this is, take the nuclear option, like Perturabo or someone like that.
That's an interesting theory in itself of like, what if Horus thinks that by asking him, he'd be talked out of it? Like, you kind of say that you walk in that room for that discussion, you come out with a different opinion, like Scientology, you know?
That's I think that stuff like that can happen with close family. Like, sometimes you don't want to tell close family stuff like that because growing up, you might be like, oh, if I tell my mum this, she's just gonna change my mind and she's gonna convince me not to do something. So I'm not gonna tell her anything. So I'm gonna go out and do all the naughty shit.
Exactly.
I think that's
whatever the reason, I suppose the decision is made in Horus's mind, isn't it? That something needs to be done about Sanguinius.
Yeah. So he sort of starts planning that. And I've just remembered a story that I listened to around this time, towards the end of the Great Crusade, where Sanguinius's visions, because he gets visions of other things. So one of his visions was about a captain in his legion. And he was getting visions that the captain was dying in a particular campaign in a particular location. I think it was like in a siege on a fortress wall. And Sanguinius went out of his way to make sure that captain was not in that location on that campaign and couldn't possibly be there. And through various unbelievable circumstances and the ship being lost in the warp, and then rerouting and ending up on another campaign, finding other blood angels, this captain ended up being at you could say the wrong place at the wrong time. And everything that I guess this is one of the moments Sanguinius must have realized that his visions were, one, not changeable, and two, real, that what he was seeing would happen and there's nothing he could do about it.
Your description there, I think
this captain dies.
Links back to Stoney's point that Kerr's in that position would have just been like, well, fuck that captain because he's going to die anyway. Like, the response is different because he at least tries to do something about it. And you're right, this might be one of the earliest examples that proves to him.
But then is it not also a bit like Kerr's, where him trying to make it happen, him trying to make it not happen is what made it happen in a way,
like fucking Indiana Jones.
Yeah. So, talking of making things happen, the one person that has control of making things happen is the War Master. So he's come up with a plan to tie up the Blood Angels in a really nasty campaign as part of his grand strategy to separate and split what he perceives will be the loyalist legions, to bleed them out before he surprises everyone with his turning traitor. And so he sends the Blood Angel Legion to the Cygnus cluster, which is a triple star system in the Segmentum Ultima. It's near the galactic center of the Milky Way. And the Blood Angels are ordered to cleanse the 7 worlds and 15 moons of Xenos invaders and free the human settlers that are there being enslaved by the Xenos.
The perfect mission. At this point, if I was Sanguinius, I'd be like, well, this mission sounds like you wrote it just for me.
Yeah, suspicious. Yeah, this is...
It's called Blood Planet, and you've got to go down there.
I'm saving people and killing aliens. Perfect.
Yeah. And of course, it's a trap. And the Cygnus cluster has actually already fallen to chaos. And it's a system of hellish demon worlds. And it's under the rule of a greater demon of Slanesh known as Chris the Perverse. That's not the
Chris
real
spelled
pronounce.
Kyrrhh.
I'll read that.
I think.
I was going to say, I think I know that guy.
So the Blood Angels arrive in the system, and their fleet is ambushed with warp attacks, and a lot of the navigators and the astropaths, so the human mutants that use the warp, are mostly killed, which obviously restricts the power of the fleet. And the Blood Angels then have to make landfall, and it's the first time really that the Blood Angels fight chaos proper, because at this point the Horus Heresy hasn't started, so they're actually fighting this chaos demons prior to the heresy. So this is all sort of new territory for them.
This is like Erebus's first job, right? That's kind of like he's what calls them. He's the guy that's sent there to call these demons into being. Is that right?
I think so. Yeah. I mean, he has a lot to answer for.
Slippery bastard.
And just before they make landfall, Chris sends Sanguinius a mind vision. So he sends him a mind vision, just declaring himself as the overlord of the star system in the name of Slanesh, and he taunts him, and he tells him that he can't take it back, and he just tries to wind up Sanguinius. All of this must have been quite shocking for the Space Marines to see. And obviously they fall back on their known battle tactics, so they launch a massive series of aerial attacks along the main world of Cygnus Prime. And Sanguinius, as we touched on in the previous episode about the Blood Angels, will personally lead this assault. And he leads the assault on their HQ, their capital in the planet, which is called the Cathedral of the Mark. So it's where the demon lives, basically.
Is this written by two guys called Chris and Mark by any chance?
Chris Mark. And Sanguinius has to fight massive packs of chaos cultists and demons, and which I didn't know any of this stuff was happening really before the heresy. So it's quite interesting. And he expects to have to fight Chris, who sent him that mind vision. So he kind of knows what he looks like. He's a Slaneshi demon. But in the end, when he gets into the cathedral, there's a demon of corn in the cathedral that he has to fight.
What type of demon is it?
Well, I don't know, but he's called Kabander.
And he is a
bloodthirster. A bloodthirster. Yeah. That's, yeah.
Little bit on the nose.
Yeah. So they fight in single combat. And again, I mean, I can't stress, like, this is, Horus Heresy for 10,000 years afterwards to 40k. This is all so familiar to us. But at this moment, Sanguinius is in one-on-one combat in a cathedral against a bloodthirster of Khorne. This is, no one's been allowed to talk about chaos. This is like completely what the fuck is going on. Sanguinius, maybe because of that, ends up basically nearly dying. So the Kabander is about to take the killing blow, but for some reason decides not to, and he just runs off and kills hundreds of Space Marines.
He breaks his legs, though, doesn't he? Doesn't he? I think in the duel, Kabander breaks Sanguinius's legs.
Yeah, because there's talk then about how quickly Sanguinius heals, but he could have had his head chopped off, but the demon doesn't, and he runs away. Eventually, the Legion are able to banish Kabander, but their paths will cross again, and the Primarch swears that he'll get his vengeance on Kabander.
Well, don't all the do they not experience like a kind of a blood, a bit like
there's
a black
psychic
rage?
Yeah, there's the Legion go a bit berserk. I think because they see Sanguinius. Maybe it is like a
because they do have this kind of a shared, like a sort of that shared blood and stuff. They do sort of feel his whatever. If something really bad happens to him, then every blood angel. That's a kind of a hint at something that wants to come.
Yeah,
but
it's like
that's
the black rage.
is one of the
1.0.
lesser done vampire tropes, isn't it? That the children of a vampire feel the pain of their master. It's not in everything. It's not in everything, but so there is some vampire films where that is like a
that's
that is
interesting.
a thing. They see visions of their master and feel of their master. So,
Um,
yeah. And does Chris try and convince Sanguinius at this point to turn to chaos, or is it all just kind of fight and flight?
Not that I read. No,
because I think there's a bit of back and forth between like when Horus and Erebus are talking about this, and Horus is like, "So can you do this?" And Erebus is like, "Yeah, no problem, mate. I can make a whole planet spawn of demons and get your bloodthirster and a keeper secrets, all of that. But like, wouldn't it be great if we converted Sanguinius?" And Horus is like, "No, don't do it." So I think there's a bit of like implication that that there might be an attempt from people to convert against Horus's wishes, but either way, it doesn't work.
Right. Can anyone hear that phone ringing?
Oh, the LBP phone.
Yeah.
Hello, LBP.
Hello, it is I, Tabius Bile, the mysterious time-travelling cat from previous episodes. Heed my warnings, old friends, for there is a foul prophet who plans to lead you to your deaths. The path ahead is unclear, but one thing is certain. You must never go to...
Some dickhead cat on the phone just then, talking some bullshit about our futures.
During the Cygnus campaign, that's when the Horus Heresy really begins, or it's certainly when the first parts of the heresy begin. So the Isvan and the Drop Site Massacre. Because I think at the end of the Cygnus campaign, after Sanguinius is healed and the Blood Angels are kind of licking their wounds, the messages start to come to them from other legions that something's going on in the galaxy, and that they're requested, I think, to come back to Terra. Well, the implication is definitely that they know that there's something's going on in the galaxy because they've lost the astropaths when they came into the campaign, that the messages aren't particularly clear, but something's going on. So they feel the need to head back to Terra to help defend from who and from what they don't know. They try to go back, but because of
bloody Erebus again.
Yeah, and this is the Battle of Calth, stirring up all of the warp and the ruin storm. The Astronomicon, the beacon, which would normally guide them back to Earth or guide them around the warp, is not visible, and actually something else is visible in the warp that they assume, the navigators, is it's a point to aim for. So, you know, who knows what it could be? Maybe
any
it's
port
the
in
Emperor.
a storm.
Yeah, they follow the lighthouse through, and they in the warp jump head for this beacon, and the beacon isn't the Astronomicon. It's actually the ancient alien artifact known as the Pharos on the world of Sotha, which we've discussed many times. It's a linking point in the Horus Heresy books, and involves...
it means that they end up essentially on Macragge. So instead of getting to Terra, they can't get to Terra. They can't get through the ruin storm. They follow the lighthouse of the Pharos, and it guides them to Macragge.
Yes, so in the 500 worlds. And during the Cygnus campaign, Gilliman and the 500 worlds have been very busy. So this is prior to Sanguinius's arrival. With no Astronomicon, no word from the Emperor, Gilliman has decided that he would found the Imperium Secundus, assuming or planning for the worst.
Definitely. I mean, the thing to mention there is that that's because the Ultramarines have faced decades of war now against the word bearers. I mean, they've had to cleanse the word bearers. The heresy is very obvious.
It's real
to
for them.
Gilliman at this
They
point.
know.
Like, They've
Yeah.
been fighting brother on brother, Space Marine on Space Marine. Like Sanguinius has dropped in at the deep end against the Planet of Demons. The
Mm.
Ultramarines have dropped in at the deep end as the first people to really go head to head with other Space Marines. They've now cleansed the Word Bearers, and as you say there, Matt, Gilliman's preparing for the worst. The Ruin Storm has split the galaxy in two.
Yeah.
He's assuming that they're too late. Horus has already made a run at Terra, and some would say this is his opportunity. Some would say this is him preparing for the worst. But either way, he sets
Yeah.
up this alternate Imperium called Imperium Secundus.
And he doesn't want to lead it. So at this point, Imperium Secundus is leaderless.
If we ever actually do a Gilliman episode, which I think we vowed we never would, we'd get into, does he really not want to lead it? Or does he feel like he can't lead it because it would negate his
would look
power?
like another heresy.
Doesn't he say that Sanguinius should be the second emperor?
Well, this is what we're coming to, because Sanguinius isn't the only person. He's not the only Primarch. He's not the only legion to end up there. So just prior to Sanguinius, the Lion and the Dark Angels, same thing happens to them. They follow the beacon that isn't the Astronomicon, and they end up in the 500 worlds. Then Sanguinius turns up, and they're all there. Lionel Johnson is being a bit of a dick. Sanguinius kind of doesn't really, it's like you said, Welshie, is kind of all really new to him. He's not really sure what's going on.
It's like the Lion arrives and he's like, I always knew you'd be up to something fishy, Gilliman, and I get here.
They nearly
You
fight
declared
each
yourself
other.
the emperor. Like, you are the heretic. There's two heretics.
He's not happy. Yeah.
Like, the Lion's like, you can't be emperor, and I can't be emperor. And Gilliman's like, are you sure? Okay, but maybe we do need an emperor. And then because everyone loves Sanguinius, it's like, oh, here's the perfect guy.
And he's got wings.
Just in time.
Yeah. So so he makes Sanguinius the it's not it's the regent of Imperium Secundus rather than emperor.
And this is the point where really he starts being plagued by death, and this is where it starts. The phrase starts: "Death at the hands of Horus." So this is where I think now it's become clearer that he will die at the hand of Horus, and he's sat in this quite reluctantly. I don't think he wants to be emperor. It's not something he wanted for himself, despite knowing he'd be good at it. And there's this bit where there's the Battle of Sofa. So the Night Lords attack the Pharos, and Robbie G and the Lion go off to defend Sothos. And who's sneaking around Macragge? Only the dark, twisted, mangled, matted version of Sanguinius himself, Conrad Kurz,
so
who
the yin and yang.
pops into his throne room for a little chat, doesn't he?
Yeah. What does he say?
That's when he starts saying things like, "Oh, you get visions too? Great. I like to just go with my visions," and tries to convince Sanguinius that there is nothing he can do. Like you've been saying, Stoney, Sanguinius is the hopeful one, like he can change his visions. And Kurz literally says to him, I am going to die at the hands of an assassin. I can foresee my death. You can't kill me. Try and strike me down. And Sanguinius literally raises the sword above his head and can't do it. And Kurz looks up at him and is like, see, told you. Like, you can't change fate. And I think at that point, Sanguinius does take some pity on Kurz because he realizes what it is like to foresee your death.
But it's also that kind of he doesn't really want to kill Kurz, because he has another opportunity, because they end up like shooting Kurz off into space in some kind of space coffin.
Well, that's the outcome of what Sanguinius decides, which is we should put him on trial. After he doesn't kill him, Kurz escapes for a bit. The Lion gets back. The Lion wants to kill him. The Lion, Rabute, and
the Lion's
Sanguinius,
falling out with everyone.
The Lion's angry. He's like, we need to catch a Kurz. We need to kill him. He's been doing my head in for years. Like, let's kill him. And Sanguinius says, we need to put him on trial. And Sanguinius puts him on trial, and the Lion essentially swings for him because Kurz is just winding the Lion up for the whole trial, just being a real dick about it. And the Lion swings for him. And at that point, Sanguinius, it's the only real point you see Sanguinius take control as the emperor of this Imperium Secundus, and he banishes the lion.
Yeah.
And he says, no, you can't do that.
Get out.
Like, we are having a fair trial for our brother. Too much blood has been shed. And that's the real turning point, because that is when Kurz mentions that he will die at the hands of an assassin. And that is enough to make the lion, because he's a clever bastard, realize that if Kurz is going to die at the hands of an assassin in the future, then the emperor must still be alive. And at this point, nobody knows that for a fact. It's that point of Kurz letting it slip that he will be killed in the future, and the lion realizing what that means, that they then go, fuck, we all need to get to Terra now.
Yeah. It's so it's so funny that just that realization of a vision that somebody else has had means that they pack up 3 legions, they terminate the Imperium Secundus, and they're like, let's finish this, let's go back to Earth. The Emperor needs us, he must still be alive. Like,
well,
that seems like a massive chaos trick.
Well, if there's like, if fate really is like unchangeable and stuff, then that's the real fate part of it, really, isn't it? But like, there's this great bit where just before they jettison him off in this weird space coffin, haven't they? It's like when they shoot Spock off in The Death of Spock in Star Trek. Kurz is saying to Sanguinius, like, oh, go on, just kill me, like, oh, if the Emperor was here, he'd kill me. And Sanguinius basically says to him, or he'd do something even worse and forgive you. And that like absolutely like devastates Kurz for a second, because he's suddenly faced with like a reality where he didn't have to be a complete cunt all the time. Do you know what I mean? And it was like, and all his visions like could have changed or whatever. And that's like one of the things that kind of like psychologically devastates Kurz, because I think that's where the book starts, isn't it? Is where he's like just got out of his like, space
that's
coffin.
that's what I was going to say. If they didn't decide to spare Kurz, we wouldn't have my favorite Black Library book, which is The Night Haunter, which starts with someone finding the space coffin of Kurz, and that's where he then ends up talking to a flesh version of his dad, losing his mind and narrating the book, which is wonderful. But yeah, you really see that. And just before that happens, Sanguinius really pisses the lion off, because Kurz up until that point is held in the lion's ship in prison, and Sanguinius breaks onto the ship to borrow Kurz to essentially use him for his premonitions and talk to him, but the lion really gets quite pissed off about that again. So yeah, they mobilize the 3 legions, don't they? And they go on what they call is the pilgrimage to Davin, because Sanguinius gets this vision that what they need to do before going straight to Terra is, for some reason, they need to go to Davin, where all of this started.
Yeah, that's where Horus is healed by Chaos.
That's right. So that's where Horus turns to Chaos in the Serpent Lodge. But when they get to Davin, they find that the planet Davin is surrounded by something called the Necrosphere, which is trillions of bones fully encompassing Davin, like a kind of Kinder egg, like a Kinder surprise. And they have to like orbital bombard this shell of bones to blast their way through to Davin. And they form like a full drop pod assault and go down. And this is where Sanguinius breaks Kurz out and takes him with them. He's like, I want your visions down here. So it's the 4 of them. It's like a real lads outing. 4 Primarchs. You can imagine Kurz pissing them off the whole way.
Yeah.
And they go and they visit the temple where Horus was essentially turned to Chaos, in the Serpent Lodge. And Sanguinius, when he's there, walks in and he sees this vision. And it's the first time in ages he's not seen a vision of just him dying. And the vision is Lorgar dead at his feet. And all of the traitor Primarchs in chains around him. And he's like, oh shit, maybe shit's looking up. Like, maybe I've managed to change the hands of fate. Like, we're coming here, maybe we're on the right track. And it turns out that that's just an old demon. Chris the pervert is back, messing with his mind.
Fuck's sake.
Oh no, sorry, I've got that wrong. It's actually a demon Madile, who may well be Chris the pervert, I'm not sure. But demon Madile, and they duel Sanguinius and this guy. He's pretty good at fighting demons at this point. And he tries to make him take on the Maw Master. So this demon Madile is another one that's like, you'd be a better war master. Why don't you be the war master?
Yeah.
Even Horus thinks you'd be a better war master. So even Chaos know how great Sanguinius is. Like, they want him on their side more than anything else. And he says, we will. This is something that's a bit odd, and I think is a Black Library cock up. He says that if you do this, there won't be the Black Rage, but the Black Rage doesn't exist yet because. So
He's
unless he
alive.
shows him, I
Yeah.
think maybe he shows him a vision of like the Blood Angels in the future losing their mind, and he's like, "This will happen if you don't turn to Chaos.
Yeah.
Don't you want to turn to Chaos?" And Sanguinius is like, "Nah, mate." Double impales him on the spear of Telesto and the blade in Carmine, and then tries to escape back through the kind of demon portal he's been sucked into. And this is where the Sanguinor is born, because he realizes the only way to get out of this portal is to have someone else make the sacrifice. So the guy that he's been using as his herald with the mask of Sanguinius sacrifices himself by diving into the portal, and is lost to the warp forever. So maybe that is the origin story of the Sanguinor as we know him in 40k. But anyway, they escape Davin and they blow it up with Cyclone torpedoes. And that destruction of Davin creates a clear path to Terra. But Horus knows this is going to happen, so he's sent a load of defensive fleets there. So the Ultramarines and the Dark Angels distract the fleets and they say, Sanguinius, you are the best of us. You go through. There's your opening. Get your ass to Terra. And that is how he makes his way through that opening.
Yeah, because the Dark Angels and the Ultramarines don't make it.
No, because they are essentially providing the distraction for the Blood Angels to make their move and get through there.
When is at what moment is the Forge World model taken?
That's his fighting Commander, isn't he? He came out.
So
with
that's in Terra.
Well,
yeah,
he fights
it could
him...
be either. He fights him twice.
Yeah.
So we can do it.
I
in a
reckon
minute.
second Commander fight. I think.
So I asked the Administratum boys to just fax over some of the details for what happened with Sanguinius on Terra because they've been a bit funny about it. So I think I can hear that fax coming through just now. Oh, here it is. It says,
Hello again, old friends. It is me, Tabius Bile. I have infiltrated the Administratum to send you this important fax. Your future grows dark. You must heed the words of this old time-traveling cat and never go to the crypt of...
It must be talking about Sanguinius, not us. We'll be
They
fine,
must be
right?
mixed, yeah, mixed up.
They've got confused.
The words have been
Bloody
confused in the war.
So Sanguinius arrives on Terra, and when he gets there, he finds some of his brothers are there already. Dawn is there. He's been prepping the walls for ages. Russ is there. The Khan is there. And Malkador, the Sigillite, is there. And essentially, as soon as he lands, he becomes like an instant propaganda poster. Like the planet is warming up for war. They know that war is coming. It's already on the outside of the Sol system. And they know that propaganda is going to be this massive thing. They need to inspire the people, the billions, if not trillions, of army that have moved onto the planet are going to need inspiration. And what better inspiration for the upcoming fight than saying, we've got a literal angel on our side? Which is interesting that the symbology of angels still hits home in a world where religion has been outlawed for so long, but I guess it does. Like, there are no eagles and there's no religion, so why do people find an angel so hopeful?
Got cool wings.
They just look cool. They can soar, I guess.
It's one of those things, isn't it? It's where people think beautiful things, beautiful equals good equals just or whatever. So you're like a dude with like massive kind of like angel wings are like big dove wings, aren't they? So it's all kind of like pretty and nice, and you've got long flowing hair, like the whitest white Jesus picture you've ever seen.
He does fly around on them, doesn't he? Like
Yeah.
Oh, he
there's
can
the bits
fly.
when he's on Terra where he's flying around all the time.
He
Yeah.
flies like just on. It's one of the first things Dawn says to him when things start hurting up. So
Mm,
Dawn says like, "Look, you are a major asset. Can you please not just like recklessly fly around?" And it's at this point he's had so many revisions. He's getting a bit curs about it. Like, I ain't gonna die today, Dawn. I'm gonna fly right past that like orbital bombardment. Fuck you. It's gonna inspire the
mm,
troops. So he basically
yeah.
pays no attention to that. And the first thing that Sanguinius does is he tries to convince Russ not to leave because Russ has got this bee in his bonnet. He wants to go one on one with Horus. He's going to go and try and hurt him. And I guess it's interesting because Sanguinius has so much power over his brothers that Russ ignores him. Doesn't listen to Sanguinius and does go off, and that's why the Space Wolves aren't there um, for when Horus actually gets there. And Sanguinius goes off, and it's part of the Beta Garmin battle, which is one of the like outer reach of the Soul System battles. It is pretty inspirational there. But I guess it's his role in the actual Siege of Terra, which is the meat of where he starts to take on this like untouchable, invincible symbol of hope and just like utter hero. The first thing that he does is he goes and rescues the Khan. So the
Mm,
Khan has done this huge sortie out on his bikes. He's taken some custodies out and they've just gone to try and hit the Death Guard hard, not realizing like how much the Death Guard have changed, and they've kind of got themselves stuck in a quagmire. And Sanguinius goes and helps that out and brings his brother home. And it's really like, I don't know, beautiful brother savior complex. Everyone's looking at that saying, you know, aren't you wonderful? You even save your brothers from death. And it's not long after that that he starts getting what I've written down as real-time brother vision, where his visions now aren't just visions of the future. He's getting images from inside the heads of his other brothers, primarily Angron. So there's this wonderful scene where he's like seeing the battle through Angron's eyes as Angron's raging, trying to get through the psychic wards into the palace, and he can't, and he's just butchering everything. And even then, as he's kind of looking through this like point of view of Angron, he's kind of taking some form of pity on him. Like even watching Angron just butcher people, he's like he's not completely cast his brother aside, which I think is again testament to his character,
Well, he
I
always
suppose.
sees the best in people, doesn't he? That's kind of is it. Even if you're Agron, he's still like, yeah, he's all right when you get to know him.
Yeah, definitely. I think there is that, and maybe it's just the fact that there's so much blood, and he fucking loves blood.
Maybe that's
You know?
just it. Yeah, maybe it's like, you know what, me and him, we ain't so different when you get down to it.
And he's got
yeah.
wings now at
Yeah,
this point,
yeah,
so
exactly.
Yeah, yeah.
um,
We're
so
turning into each other.
Yeah.
he starts seeing that like things are really heating up, and this is as you move through the Siege of Terror books, and he goes and does this absolutely epic inspirational move where he flies with his spear and he swoops down and like cuts straight back up into the sky, and as he flies vertically upward he drags his spear through the head of a warlord titan and slashes a warlord titan in half, and then like does a spiral in the air above it, and everyone's like, yeah. This like one guy with wings has just brought down an entire warlord titan. So that's what I mean about this like instant propaganda machine. What more inspiration do you need than
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
if you're terrified that the War Master is coming and
Well,
indeed has
you,
landed at this point?
the Emperor on the battlements would be
Yeah, well, unfortunately, the Emperor's confined to his throne at the moment
yeah.
because of his other brother. But um, so yeah, he does that, and then that just kind of sets up this string of heroism. So he then moves on to the Eternity Gate, where he flies out and just beheads a Reaver Titan. Um, after it kind of this Reaver Titan comes, and this is where I think people first see the rage. The mask starts to slip a bit on Sanguinius because this Reaver Titan walks up to the Eternity Gate and kind of gives the terms of Horus, because Horus is still laying terms at this point, saying like, if you join me, like if you just walk out the gate and come to me now, like I'm not going to hurt you. My argument is with the Emperor, it's not with the people of Terra. Um, but the mistake that this Reaver Titan delivering terms makes is that strapped to the top of the Reaver Titan, and this comes back to your story earlier, Matt, of things repeating himself, is a captain called Idamus. who's been like crucified on top of the Reaver Titan and like tortured to death. And Sanguinius is like, that's a captain of my blood angels. Like, fuck your terms. Loses it a little bit. The mask slips and just runs out there and beheads it. Again, pretty fucking cool.
I think that's fair enough.
Yeah. But, you know, the visions, maybe that was the vision he was having when he had that vague vision of captains being killed outside the gates. And it's at that point that the heroism steps up a gear yet again, because the psychic wards start to fail, and it's the return of Kabanda. So Kabanda breaks through back into reality, and they have their final showdown. And this time, Sanguinius is prepared. He's having none of it. He takes a few wounds, but he doesn't get his legs broken. And what he does is he breaks Kabanda's back over the pommel of his sword.
Yeah.
As he like flies down and lands and like smashes his back again. So Sanguinius is ridden out. He's speared 2 titans to death. He's broken the biggest bloodthirster's back over his sword. And if that wasn't enough, still reeling, still knackered, and partially injured, who squares up to him next but only Angron, the like most fearsome thing on the planet at that point. And he goes straight in to fight Angron, like no let up. Kabanda's down. I've got to take Angron out. And the way he does
full
that,
battle royale style, just one after the other.
No respite. And the way that he does that is because he's been in his head, because he's getting this brother vision, he realizes that it is the anger that's driving Angron. It is the rage. So he lets himself get impaled on Angron's sword, and he climbs forward on the sword in like a full fucking heroic end of movie style, so that he can reach the nails. And when he's slid all the way forward on the sword, he rips the nails out of Angron's head, and Angron's head explodes. And he like fizzles off into the warp. So what a run. Cool. What a few days for Sanguinius.
There's like the bit where he kills Kabanda's really cool, because he like throws him into like a kind of a pit, like a void back to the warp, and he says, if you come from the place that men once called hell, go there now and tell the other demons that it was Sanguinius that killed you. I just think that's so fucking badass.
Yeah, that is mental. I guess that's a good point with killing Demons of Khorne, to talk about his model, which we normally do when we're discussing the Primarchs.
Yeah. And cool. I remember when this got released, because we were well into the podcast by then, and it was a big day when this model got released. So it's a relatively new Primarch model, isn't it? Like,
it was one of the later ones, because it had to be, really, didn't it? Because of I think they re-released the Horus model. They did a new version of Horus, then they released him as well, I think. Was that right? Am I right with that? But also the Kabanda, because we did Kabanda as well, because obviously he's a big part of the story. And Angron. They had to do them all, right? Because, I mean, he's going to fight all of them. At least the 40k Angron was around that time, because we were doing that model spotlight, and we did Kabanda and Angron. And I remember our thing was they're basically the same fucking model. So
and you do get it feels a bit like that when you're reading the Siege of Terror. It's like he's fighting a bloodthirster. Now he's fighting a bloodthirster called Angron.
They've all got wings.
But the model, I remember when they first showed us this model, it was like mind blowing. This was the first real step up in the well, maybe not the first, but the next step up in the Primarch quality of Horus Heresy. Because this was before Jagatai, wasn't it? Who was another step up. But they showed it with this crazy display base of him knocking down Kabanda, which is like every picture of Saint Michael you've ever seen in a church. And I can't fucking go in a church anymore without whispering to my partner, like, it's fucking Sanguinius up there, like, especially in Germany and places. Do you remember everyone talking about how he's got the spear in his hand backwards? This big debate about the spear.
People didn't massively like this when it came out, I remember. I think it's aged better than people gave it credit for. But yeah, people were... Because is it not part of one of those kind of diorama pieces where you can put another piece in there? Like I think the Magnus piece was like that, wasn't it?
So the Kabanda is the one we're looking at now. You can put the Kabanda with him. Yeah, you actually can't buy the Kabanda anymore. You can only get Sanguinius, which I think is it. doesn't do it justice because the way the Sanguinius section of this model is held up looks like there's a bit of stone going up his arse, which looks really awkward.
Not the stone,
but the
misplaced
posing and the
stone.
wings and the hair flowing back and that beautiful golden
the wings
armor
are
is
awesome
so
on it.
good.
Yeah.
It's interesting, isn't it, that Sanguinius is the only, maybe I'm wrong here, but he's the only Primarch whose color scheme isn't the same as his Legion. Like, he's never wearing red, he wears gold.
That is I mean, I guess he's got the Sanguinary Guard that wear gold with him.
I guess that just Magnus the Red looks quite different from the rest of his Legion.
He's got his top off a lot of the time and his tit horns out.
Yeah, but that's post-heresy, so yeah, that is where his Legion is just fag ash and he's just a dude with his shirt off.
I can't think of anyone else that looks completely different.
Again, because he is a symbol, right? He is the symbol of the golden shining. He is the emperor among Primarchs, I guess.
Yeah, he looks more like if you were just a person, you might say that he was a custode or he would belong to the custodes or something. But I mean, the wings are also pretty out there, right? They're pretty on the nose.
Yeah. I tried to buy this model last time I went to Warhammer World and they didn't have it, and I was utterly disappointed.
No. It does look kind of strange now you can't buy the Commander one because he is so clearly fighting something, you know. It does is a bit weird. But yeah, it's a cool model. It's definitely one of the it's a cool Primarch model.
Yeah, I agree.
He's a cool Primarch.
Right up there. I wonder if we'll ever see a plastic version. I feel like we won't because, well, for reasons we'll see shortly. This is the last part. They're not going to do a different version.
No, I disagree. I haven't mentioned this for a long time, but this will be the Emperor's model. And actually, there's a piece of artwork I'll get up on screen in a bit that I'd like to talk about. But I can imagine that they would, because he is quite popular, that they would have an Emperor and Sanguinius model of some description. In a diorama.
Maybe the diorama we're about to get to.
I could definitely see him coming back. Well, you know what the model really looks like? And that is a vampire Jesus. And that's right, boys. I've done a Stoney's esoteric bullshit section.
Oh,
Stab me with that spear of Telesto, Christ.
God.
Hidden knowledge.
Spooky mystery.
Unsolved phenomena.
Complete bullshit.
It's Stoney's esoteric knowledge section.
That's right, boys. I just wanted to do a really little bit the Catholic influences that you see in the Blood Angel stuff, but also some of the vampire stuff too, because that's also pretty cool. And let's face it, you know, I mean, in the last episode, Welshie, you said that the Blood Angels lore was probably made up by some stone drunk guy, and then they had to flesh it out over the years. Well, as the show's as the resident stone drunk guy, I'm going to backwards engineer this bastard, and we're going to see if we can get a bit of an insight into where this is coming from. So, firstly, I just want to quickly talk about vampires, because like in folklore, they hold this really weird position where they appear all over the places, or things like them appear all over the place, but they weren't really like a set thing. And they're definitely not like the kind of what we think of as vampires now, but they were nearly always shared a sort of a bestial nature, and they had an appetite for animal mutilation. So they were more like kind of wild men or shapeshifters or something. And they certainly weren't like the kind of sexy, pale-faced blood drinkers that Hollywood kind of made them into. They were just kind of thought of as like, there's lots of different things. It's sort of really hard to pin down, but definitely kind of animal mutilation was kind of a big vampire thing. And Bram Stoker does keep some of that lore. Dracula is kind of essentially a savage animal just hidden behind the kind of affectation of charm, and he constantly needs to restrain himself to keep himself from being discovered. This is kind of interesting when you combine it with like the Catholic symbology. That the Blood Angels are rocking pretty damn hard, what with them being called like the angels and things. I also see that Sanguinius is rocking what is essentially like a sacred heart on his chest. I was reading the lore about that, where it's kind of like an exploding heart kind of thing to simplify his like unburning faith or something, which is like, oh yeah, absolutely. We know.
Doesn't someone give that to him?
He does, yeah. It's all like but it's got like the top of it is like 3 planets and like all this kind of stuff. But like much like the Catholicism teaches that humans are essentially kind of like next to beasts, and it's only things that like society and art and stuff like that which kind of like brings us closer to like God and things like that. That like we need to kind of like tame our bestial nature by becoming more divine through like, you know, being nice to people and being Catholic essentially. And don't forget, giving the Catholic Church a lot of money. And so much like how when the Blood Angels initially started, they were just kind of like barbarians, you know, kind of like living their lives, and then were kind of like civilized by art and things like that, and all the rest of it. But also, I think that we can't really like shy away from the Eucharist, you know, the kind of the communion, that eating blood, drinking
the chalice of blood is like right there.
The chalice of blood, the communion of drinking wine and waffles that through transmutation actually turn into the body of Christ and the blood of Christ. That's what you know, Catholics believe. And I mean
they're two separate things, I guess, but the Grail symbology and the Grail, that artifact where they do drink the blood from.
Well, that is, absolutely. I mean, that is kind of, that is, you know, drinking the blood and drinking the wine. They feel like that's pretty spot on, because Catholics do believe that that the wine turns into blood in your stomach, and that the wafers actually turn into a bit of Jesus in your stomach. And like, I've been brought up with a lot of Catholics, and I've always thought that that was like a kind of a metaphor. I've heard people talk about it in the past as like, oh no, that really happens. That really does like turn into a bit of Jesus in your stomach. And like, I've always kind of thought it was a metaphor, but then I was looking into it a little bit for this, and it is actually like people really do believe it. And it's not considered like cannibalism, because I ended up listening to this podcast where two priests were talking about it and like why the Eucharist isn't cannibalism essentially, and it was quite interesting, like because in terms of like listening to it in terms of like through the eyes of a blood angel, because they were saying that like it's not about it's sort of about you sharing a body with Christ. So it's not about like Jesus being, you're not like eating Jesus, you're kind of becoming Jesus. When you eat it, a bit of Jesus is inside you, which you then kind of becomes a bit of you. So
he doesn't want Jesus inside him. Have you seen those abs?
Exactly. You know, sexy blonde hair Jesus, everybody knows it. So yeah, if you want a bit of Jesus inside of you, the Eucharist is a sin-free way to get him up in there.
But the other massive thing I think with this as well is interesting is he's got the halo.
Yeah.
Anytime you see him, he's got the halo on his armor. But this is at a time when you couldn't worship the Emperor, so that's just part of his armor that's lifted as like a visual aspect of what you're saying.
I was also reading that in that bit of the early life that I was talking about. I forgot about saying this, but like when he goes mad and when he's killing all those mutants, he gets like the halo. It like appears like when he's getting like really pissed off. So I don't know if it's like you've read some of the books. Does it appear when he's getting pissed off, or does he just have it? Is it like
I don't know. I think he's one of those things that's a bit like the Emperor, where some people see him as more than he is in reality. I mean, there's some passages that are like, are the wings even real? Like, are they physically there, or are they like a manifestation of psychic
on the wings of my dreams? Yeah, no, definitely. But one of the things about like becoming Jesus when you eat the biscuit as well is that it means that you can kind of embody the sacrifice of Jesus. You can kind of better understand Jesus's sacrifice and all that kind of thing, like because he obviously died for our sins, as I know that you guys know and appreciate, which obviously is very Sanguinius-y. He died for the sins of mankind, right? He died for the sins of his brothers and the sacrifice.
Is it a Cradle of Filth t-shirt that says "Jesus died for your sins, not mine" on the back of it? I think
they've got one that says "Jesus is a cunt," isn't it?
That was the next level up.
That's their, like,
I wouldn't say that about Sanguinius, though.
No, Sanguinius is not a cunt. Sanguinius is all around good guy.
Yeah. But I just think that that's quite obviously it's incredibly on the nose, like most of Games Workshop's references. But I do think that if we're looking to try to reverse engineer a bit of like where this came from, I actually think that it's quite concise compared to like some of the other sort of out there stoner beer drinker lore in a way.
Yeah,
you know?
It is very concise.
If you look at something like the Dark Angels or something, they're kind of all over the place with like where they come from or like what's going on. But I think that actually the vampire, the Catholic vampire, actually kind of like goes pretty well.
I think that's really interesting. As somebody that's actually not really grown up surrounded by many religious people at all, yeah, I've never really connected that the vampire thing, obviously, but never the Catholic Church.
I mean, the thing that's to take the very visual aspect that we joked about earlier of Saint Michael further. I mean, Saint Michael literally cast the demons back into hell. Like he is the anti-Satan, right? Archangel Michael,
and the eating of the flesh, like the and the blood, like when we were talking about the Blood Angels Legion and the Blood Angels chapter in the last episode. I mean, that's literally what they do. Even in 40k, they're doing what Catholics are doing now,
and they do it. It helps them embody Sanguinius, which helps keep them away from their bestial urges. So it
is exactly that. Yeah, and the artwork as well, because when we spoke about Baal and how Baal used to, they have long lifespans. They have time for the art, for doing art, and then the Blood Angels also then have long lifespans and have time to do things like art. That art connection is well,
definitely. You can take that if you want to get real religious with it, religious history. You can take Baal as an actual aspect of this, right? So Baal, the god of the Canaanites and the Phoenicians, the temple of Baal that was then taken over by what would become Christianity at a later date. Like, can you even read some into that of the tribes people of the old religions of Baal being taken on by this guy that is essentially the symbol of modern day?
Well, yeah, I mean, that's, I guess, the AD BC crossover, essentially, isn't it? You know, but
because Baal isn't that to do with
it was kind of like the
Romans
fight god,
the Carthage.
Phoenicians, Phoenicians.
Yeah. Anyway, that's it's all interesting stuff, isn't it?
Yeah. So I think I mean, he's called the Angel, and everybody knows that. And obviously, the biggest clue is everybody knows that Jesus had blonde hair, blue eyes, was a pasty white man. So,
Tony, at the end of my next
buff white man.
At the end of my next little bit of lore, you might even get a little bit more Jesus. Don't you worry.
Right, I'll drink to that. I'll just finish off my cup of tea here. Oh, hang on a minute. The tea leaves seem to have formed into... it seems like they're forming into some kind of words here. It says,
oh, really?
Yeah.
Hi, this is a tea message from, Bonrad Burrs. Yes. Just a quick one to let you know that Sanguinius is still alive, actually. Yes, he's in his tomb on Baal. Simply go there and move the big rock in front of the tomb, and I foresee you meeting the angel, or the angels, if you get my drift.
That's a big mug.
Forget about that right now, Welshie. Our new friend Bonrad Burrs has just given us a hot lead, and I reckon we go and check it out.
Okay, so back to terror. But terror isn't necessarily going to remain holy terror for too long at this point. The walls of the Imperial Palace are being broken down, and not only that, but reality is starting to warp. And what happens is the vengeful spirit, place in time and space, merges with the physical time and space of the Imperial Palace, and things start getting real weird. And the Emperor realizes that what he needs to do is get to Horus on the vengeful spirit. It's time. He's getting suited up. He's got the custodies. He's going, right, this is it. This is the showdown. I'm getting off my chair. I'm going to put Malcador in there, and I'm going straight for the jugular.
And let's not forget, this is after fighting Kabanda and Angeron and those fucking titans. He's the hardest working man in the fucking heresy.
So he knows that the Emperor's getting suited up, Sanguinius.
Again.
And Sanguinius goes to the Emperor and says, cool, let's do it, daddy. And the Emperor goes, nah, mate, you're staying here.
Yeah.
And Sanguinius is like, what? Did you not just see me take out 2 titans, a bloodthirster and Angron? You need me, daddy. You need me.
And how this is like weeks into the Siege of Terror, isn't it?
Oh yeah, I mean, the Siege of Terror has been going on for years. I think at this point, it's a long old fight.
And, so this moment this moment has been like, this moment should never really happen, but
No.
it comes, and the emperor seizes it.
And the emperor goes, I don't want you. I don't want you to come. And the conversation that changes the emperor's mind is Sanguinius saying that he wants to take part in the assault because he wants to defy fate. And the emperor sees something in that, I think, in himself. I think the emperor, throughout his very long life, has probably had a number of times where he's had to defy fate to survive for as long. And I think maybe his fear when he says, Sanguinius, you can't come, is either that he genuinely loves him, which he hasn't given us much evidence of in the past, the old emperor, or that up until that point he thought Sanguinius was embracing his fate and therefore was going to die. But the fact that Sanguinius says, no, I still believe, I still hope, even at this later stage where visions have come true, I still hope that I can defy my fate of death at the hand of Horus. And that's when the emperor goes, all right, son, you're on board. Let's go. And they all kind of teleport through this timey-wimey weird mashup of dimensions. And essentially they get scattered across the vengeful spirit. The custodies are fighting in like slow-mo time, where like every like hour of their time is like 4 hours of outside time. It's all mashed up. The emperor's been split from the custodies. And the person who finds himself closest to Horus in the right place is Sanguinius, Ralderon, and the fucking Blood Angels. They are on embarkation deck 2, the place they were supposed to teleport to. Whether that's because Horus has let it or not, I don't know. So Sanguinius is essentially landed on this ship, but it's like I say, the ship isn't the ship he remembers. Like he knows his way around the vengeful spirit. It's a bit like Harry Potter. The staircases are changing direction, but they're also like bleeding.
The
feces.
walls are bucking up. Yeah,
like they're screaming. Like it's all over the place, right? And who shows up to guide him to his brother? It's only the ghost of Ferrus Manus, all fiery. So the ghost of Ferrus Manus turns up, and he's
appears
like
in the sky like Simba's dad in The Lion King. And
yeah, or like the dude that takes him to the
It's just his head. It's like floating.
Holy Grail.
yeah.
He's all like flaming, and the way that they describe him, I think, is a setup for the Legion of the Damned. But let's not get into that now. Anyway, the ghost of Ferrus Manus is kind of like, so to punish me, Horus has just decided to rip my soul out of the warp and make me be the one that guides you to him. And they have a little bit of a chat. Ferrus is like, I'm not sure you want to do this. You don't know what he's become. Sanguinius is like, no, I can beat him. I will beat him. Blah, 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 blah. That leads
even though he knows he won't
be delivered to. Even though he knows he won't, deep down, probably, I guess. But he still thinks he has this hope of changing
he's got to do it,
fate.
I mean, that's kind of what I was saying before, where it's kind of like it is his fate. It's this series of actions which he knows he can't do anything differently. He's living his best life in a way. You know, he's doing what he thinks is the right thing.
Well, and also like living his best life. But if he can control the situation, he knows one way or another he will end up in that room with Horus. So he may as well do it voluntarily and in his control, so that he can have a he's not suddenly thrown in. It kind of makes sense to just willingly just go for it, be in control as much as you can.
At this stage, he would do it with or without the visions because he just knows he's got to stop Horus. So it's like, yeah,
he's so not going to run away.
It's like, no, fuck these visions. Actually, you know what? I'm going on holiday.
Safe to say he's feeling a little bit bruised after all of the fighting he's just done. So he gets there. He knows that Horus is powerful. He knows that he's not in his best state, but he goes anyway. And I'm going to read you just the little bit that describes how he fights when he gets to Horus. Okay? Because I think it's a brilliant bit of writing from Dan Abnett in End and the Death Volume 2, which is wider than my head, the middle part of the End trilogy. This is how Sanguinius is described as fighting Horus. Sanguinius speeds between maul and claw, loops, dummies, flits left and drives the tip of end carmine deep into Horus's hip. The serpent's scales puncture like paper, exhaling steam, oozing thick curdled blood that runs black. The gleaming angel's relentless circuits around his ponderous foe have become a kind of dance, nimble, acrobatic, unstinting, elegant. There is an intricate grace in his every movement, a demonstration of faultless martial prowess that no one in the universe could replicate. It is dazzling in its exactitude, fluid and pure, almost performative, like a rite or sacred act. There is no effort wasted, no redundancy. It resembles, in its balletic artistry, the daedal complexity, the elaborate steps and post-human gymnastics of an Eldari harlequinade. Perhaps somehow they are the same eternal steps. Now, I think that passage alone covers almost everything we've said. He is the perfect fighting thing. Fluid, performative, like a rite or a sacred act. Dan Abnett is already lathering us up with the religious here. He is, at this point in this fight, kicking Horus's ass. And then I love that he puts in this real nerdy fucking bit at the end. A, to reference Daedalus for the people that love that shit. But B, to describe it as an Eldari harlequinade. The harlequin dance about the end of their fucking empire. And say that they are the same eternal steps that are being fought here. Is so really fucking cool. So yeah, they start fighting and essentially Horus is getting his fucking ass handed to him.
Through ballet, by the sounds of it. He's getting balleted to death.
This book, right, that bit, the last chapter of this book, reading that is just a part of, like, just the perfect description of this fight. And that chapter ends with Sanguinius slicing Horus's face with his blade. And the next chapter starts with Horus on the floor looking up at Sanguinius. And Horus says to him, "You didn't think it would end like this, did you?" And sees the glint in Sanguinius's eye as he doesn't deliver the killing blow immediately. As he's like, "Have I changed fate?" And then they describe the sword swinging down at Horus. And as the sword swings down, the maul raises up to block the sword. And Horus reveals that he's been fighting with no warp power the whole fucking time. And then he gets up and Sanguinius jumps into the air to do like a dive bomb. And as Sanguinius jumps, Horus grabs him with the talon by the ankle and just smashes him into the ground, just like breaks him. And the description of him breaking and his head like slowly lolling to the side and the blood dripping from his mouth as his wings break behind him is brutal.
Does he not really, because he kind of understands the damage that he's doing to the chapter as well at that stage. He wants to kind of make him die a really painful death.
I think so. I think there's a bit of that, and I think
was that old lore?
I don't know whether he can see, because Horus at this point is like beyond time and space, right? He's like a multi-dimensional godlike being, and I think it gets to the point where he realizes that maybe he's realized that he couldn't have beaten Sanguinius without the power of the warp, and therefore just goes balls into the warp.
Right.
And the four gods are described as being in the room, like whispering, chuckling that Horus is getting beaten and like they've picked the wrong guy. And then Horus goes like, "No, I'm going to show you how this works." Grabs him, smashes him to the ground, and then like when he's bruised and beaten, drags him over to this like empty throne that he'd saved for Sanguinius, and he's like, "This could have been your throne." It's like a throne of skulls, and Sanguinius looks up like bleeding at the throne, and there's a pile of skulls on top of the chair, and the top one has got an X marked on the forehead, and it's bigger than the rest. And the only word Sanguinius says in the whole fight is "Manus," like through like gritted teeth, and he's realized that the throne that Horus, how far Horus has fallen, that from that point we talked about earlier where Horus knew he could never convert Sanguinius, he's so drunk with power that he now thinks he could have done. And also to know that like he's got your brother's fucking skull on a chair and expected you to be the one that sits in it. And at this point, Sanguinius
chair looks nice.
Yeah. Oh, damn. I wish I'd had that.
Again. He tries to get up again. And this is the next little bit of the book. Wordbreaker catches him before he's even back on his knees. The clubbing blow breaks his left shoulder, ribs, and left femur. He collapses, trying not to scream from the pain, and failing. Horus starts to bludgeon him, beating him repeatedly like a disobedient dog. There is no art in this anymore, no martial skill, no patience. Worldbreaker shreds armor and flesh. It pulverizes both collarbones. It ruptures a lung. A fine drizzle of blood fumes the air around the two figures, the brutal, beating giant and his prey. The sixth hammering impact twists Sanguinius' head around, shattering his jaw and transmitting such force that the skin on the left half of his face, from brow to chin, is flayed loose. It flutters, then drapes back like a slack mask. It's fucking brutal, and he just bludgeons him, and then sighs as he dies. Horus is just sighs, walks away, clicks his fingers, and the demons behind him string Sanguinius up in a crucifix above the chair that he could have sat in. And that is the end of our main man.
Well, there we go.
And it's like, those two little passages are but a fraction of the brilliantly written fight.
But it's also the end of Horus, so it's not all bad. So,
well, there are some that say, and I think the Blood Angels to this day say, that the wounds that Sanguinius managed to do in that fight are the wounds that are exploited by the Emperor later on. But for that story, you've got to go to the volume 3 of The Lost and the Damned, and that's an even more brutal and excellent fight.
Me and Kitty, it's kind of like that book Catcher in the Rye. Did you ever read that one? I'm kind of like the guy that looks out for all the kitties in the park. Otherwise, there'll be nobody to take care of them. This cocksucker here, I found him in a storm drain.
And so our story comes to an end, dear friends. The podcast boys left for Baal to find Sanguinius' crypt, using the directions of the mysterious yet seemingly helpful Bonrad Burrs. And sure enough, they found the rock blocking the door, and quickly set about bickering over who should be the first to remove the boulder and greet the risen Sanguinius.
I should be the one to do it.
No, I'm gonna do it.
Alas, in the squabbling, the rock came loose and rolled over the pool, leaving them as flat and devoid of life as one of the new codexes.
Coming at us! Indiana Jones!
And would you believe it? The cave wasn't Sanguinius' tomb at all, but an ancient supply of catnip that had been sealed for millennia. It's funny how things turn out, isn't it? We'll see you next time on the Large Blast Podcast.